All right, welcome to today's show. Today we're going to talk about some fun stuff. We are talking about AI agents, which most of us, we usually talk about AI agents about like pre-research or how they can help us be more productive. We're going to flip it a little bit today. We're going to talk about how AI agents can optimize for better relationships, not just better sales processes or sales methods. And I think this is critical because, enterprise sales has always been multi-threading. But even in the SMB and mid-market space today, SMB, the average buying committee is 6 people. Enterprise, it's like 11 plus now. And so you got more stakeholders, yet most sales teams like really struggle to effectively engage multiple contacts within an account. And so in this episode, we're going to explore how AI is really transforming the way we can build relationships, the way that we can multi-thread, to really turn this into like an automated, intelligent revenue engine, and really optimizing for what we all love, which is that net revenue retention. So our guest today is Rachit Kataria. He brings a very unique perspective into operationalizing multi-threading at scale, or what we're going to call it today and going forward is relationship selling. He is a revenue operations innovator. He has pioneered multiple systematic approaches to how we can optimize relationship selling in the complex B2B sales environment. So, man, welcome to the show. I probably did not do a good enough job as you deserve of introducing yourself. So, tell us about yourself, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. That was a great intro. Appreciate it. High level, we like to say, and I'll go really fast, quick intro. I'm Rachit, co-founder, CEO of Centralize. We started the company last year, winter 24. We did Y Combinator. If y'all are familiar with kind of the startup accelerators that are out there, YC is a big one, and we actually raised from Salesforce as our lead back in May. So doesn't hurt to have Benioff on your side, fellow Trojan as well, fight on. And in terms of how we think about the world, right, and kind of you very aptly put it, Heath, I'll say it very directly, it's what I told Salesforce. The R in your CRM does not work. It is not anything in any form of a true visual of the actual core relationships and multi-threading. It's critical. You need it. Like thank you, Benioff, for all of that you've done for us. Like the company is that critical and sticky for a reason, because you have to have a place for the data. You have to have a place to track all of this information about where we are in the sales cycle, the stages, etc. But at the end of the day, it is a really, really critical database. It is not a view of the multi-threading story. It's not telling you who have I talked to, from every word they've spoken, what matters to Rachit or Heath or anybody else in the deal cycle, where the VP of Ops gets excited about different things from the head of finance, from the IC in engineering, from someone in sales, different priorities, different threads. That's not really captured in a way that's meaningful right now, let alone the more important answer to the question, which is then, who do we miss? Are we above the power line, on the line, or below where we're supposed to be in the personas we sell to if we have any chance of closing? If we know we have to talk to marketing, ops, and sales, and we're getting single-threaded below the line in sales, this deal's not closing. But even just having that answer of where we are is not something that you can just open your eyes and see. And that's what makes it so tough with CRM, where the data is there, but it's not meaningfully pulled into the same context of who you've talked to and all the other sources of data, your emails, your calls, your calendars, your LinkedIns, your conversational data. Like it's all over the place. And so the TLDR of how we think about the world is, AI agents for relationship selling. How can we help you operationalize multi-threading by showing you who you've talked to, who you missed, and how you fix it? And that is kind of the crux of anything you do in sales, right? It's like talk to the right people, the right person, at the right time, say the right thing. But if you can't see it, then what are you guys talking about? Like, what's the strategy? That only gets harder in complex deals. But yeah, you said it well in the beginning, man. It's that's how we think about the world. R in your CRM if it worked.
I love that, man. I want to learn more after this about like what does it mean when you say relationship selling, right? And how AI can really help that. But I also want to learn a little bit, man, like what sparked this passion for really democratizing enterprise sales strategies, right? Through it's almost hard, right? Because it's almost like there's irony in the statement. It's like using technology to create better relationships when, most of us, you see so many spectrums of AI right now. So like, what sparked this passion for you to really dive into this?
Yeah. Yeah, that's funny you call it out. Like a lot of the sea of AI SDRs and things, people are saying like, oh, it's all automation. It's removing the person, right? Like the personal element, the relationship, and it's a fair call out. Like I think the way what I've seen, and for everyone listening, like I'm not a seller by trade by any means. I was an engineer before all of this. My co-founder is also an engineer. We met first week of college at USC. I was a founding engine on Facebook Shops, which was Meta's e-commerce push in COVID. Ton of fun. We scaled from zero May 2020 to a quarter billion monthly actives in a year. So this is Meta numbers, right? Pretty crazy scale there. Learned how to be a good engineer at Meta. But where I saw this personally, I went to a company called A to B, and it is a place. It's a YC company that's fuel cards for trucking, like literally Visa cards to buy gas. And I was the product tech lead who would go on site with AEs and CSMs to truck stops and company HQs to give out the tech and see what they needed. And when I saw teams go really deep on who cares about what is the head of fleet versus the CFO versus the driver get excited about, it's like buttery smooth, very clear. Like what are the priorities and how they align. And that's great for me because I can build the right thing. We also got hit in the face with multiple 100K churn cases overnight that as Eng have to pause all of EPD, all of Eng product design to go fix. I spent 2 weeks in one of those instances pausing everybody to be like, what is wrong here? Why do we not solve their problems? Spent all this time sprinting, hackathoning, built what they needed. Didn't matter. It's too late, right? We're in the back half. We lost them. Deal's closed. We had a retro, and I don't think y'all will be surprised when you hear this. One, the champion at that company left and no one knew about it. Two, the new person that came in with the core priorities, no one understood how important they were and what those priorities were that were different from the original person. Three, the AE that initially closed the part of the deal left the company. So context, tribal knowledge is gone. And four, all that context did exist, but it was in a gong call in 5 people's inboxes that no one knew about 6 months ago. And so you get to this position where all this important critical information is either being missed, it is getting swept under the rug underneath 5 different systems of record. And by the time you realize it's you guys know better than me, it's too late, right? Like you're in the back half of the deal, you've already lost it, odds are. And just seeing that outside in was so painful. I can't imagine what the person on the ground's feeling who's like actually the seller, right? Or the CSM. My co-founder, Will, saw this at scale. So he was the engineer that actually created Slack huddles. If anyone's ever used Slack, he built it. He worked very closely with Cal Henderson, who's their co-founder, CTO, Noah Weiss, their CPO. He created the prototyping team at Slack, also built lists, clips, save for later, all that fun stuff. And Huddle, same problem, right? Like at scale, no AE, CSM, frontline manager up to the leaders could tell you consistently who cares about this, who should use this product. What do they need to hear to feel good that is different? All the different potential personas of Slack users that are out there. And so Will and I came together, we're like, there's something wrong here where all of these revenue teams have such disjointed sets of unstructured data like this. Like they're all these systems of record. You have your LinkedIn system of relationship record. You have your calls like Gong, which is your system of call record. CRM is kind of your sales system, right? Of like your what deals are in flight, the dollar amounts and all that. Email and calendar, it's like your touch point records. And all of that is just it's so disconnected that as the name suggests, there's no centralized view of what matters to then answer the fundamental question of what is wrong right now. Who should we have been talking to? Who are we not talking to? Who we could have been talking to? If we're going to make sure we don't end up in those back of the half deals where everything blew up. And then, no surprise, end of quarter, you just lost 300K. Like you can't afford to have that happen. But it happens more often than I realized as someone not in sales. And it's kind of what spurred a lot of the excitement of there's something here. Like this combined with, for the first time when we started the company, GPT-4 coming out, actually meant you could do something about it. Like it was a synergy of problem historically, deals were always complex, data was always siloed with, oh, wait a second, you can actually at scale turn unstructured data and centralize it into a view that means something to you. And now what that means is kind of we can get into, but what we thought was the opportunity with Centralize.
I love that. Like when you're talking about the lost deal story, it like brought back pain.
Yeah.
When we at Mixmax started implementing some different tools to just track signals, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was to your exact point. I remember this like it was yesterday. We had a customer churn and I went back and we were finally at the point where we could understand the customer journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, we should have known back in September that they were leaving. because we started seeing that the champion was visiting our website more and going to our pages, and even more was going to a specific competitor of ours where we have content of it's this person versus Mixmax. And I was like, we had all the signals, right? But that's also under the situation that we kept our champion. You hit a really good one, which me and you were talking about before we started the recording, was even at customer success, right? Growth AEs, customer success, account managers, whatever we want to call them, they are in sales because champions leave. And like there is internal selling that has to go on. And so I think you hit a big one is it's part of like the relationship selling and go to network, which I know you've also been a big part of. But you also hit another important piece, which I think is where there is so much opportunity in the space. And it's what you talked about is we talk a lot about signals that are very, very, how do we get, leads that are blue ocean into red ocean, right?
Sure.
It's about website tracking. It's about social media tracking. But we do nothing about actually understanding what context has been given through video calls, through emails. Like, I think that's the power with AI today is we can actually be able to scrape this data and understand like, oh, based off the word composition, or they use this common word multiple times, like there's a flag there, there's a risk. And so I think there's a huge opportunity here, man. Like this is the exciting part. So take us through when you talk about relationship selling, like what does that mean?
Yeah. Well, you guys know again better than me. I'm a newcomer, and I've talked to hundreds of VPs of sales and CROs and success over the years to learn this well. But it's the idea very simply of multi-threading, right? Like what is multi-threading? It is just talking to multiple personas in all the right places above, on, or below the line. Who's your end user? Who's going to be the person influencing and supporting you? Who's the decision maker? You guys have probably seen like the 3x3 grids. There's a few different like flavors of this, right? And how do you do that right now? I mean, if you think about the messy middle of a deal, that's where things start falling apart. There's a lot of players in the let's go get you that first meeting, right? The AISDRs of the world. But once you get there, that first foot in the door, you have 12 months to close that deal. And like, what are you doing in those 12 months to ensure that nothing goes wrong? Now, maybe it doesn't take 12 months, maybe it's a quarter, 3 months, 6 months, whatever. But as you start getting those more complicated deals, the complexity starts becoming, very simply put, I'm your enterprise rep or mid-market rep. I have a book of 50 accounts, hypothetically. That book of accounts of 50, if you think about it at scale, how many people I have to not just get to my buyer committee, that might be 5 or 6 people, maybe it's 10. What about everyone along for the ride? The influencers, the business users I have to talk to, et cetera. That could be like, in of itself, 20, 30 people I have to keep happy at that company. That means me alone, one person, has to keep 1,000 people on the lower end in a good spot, just generally, and make sure I don't drop the ball. That's me as a rep. Heath, you're my frontline manager and you have 10 reps. You are expected to inspect 10,000 plus relationships at any given time and make sure nothing is slipping. Your CRO has a negative idea what's happening right now. They're just playing a game of telephone. They're like flexing it. Like you can see how the math starts making this very complex. And there's no surprise you guys get to end of quarter and what percentage of your deals, you just think about it, that stall or slip because you were too low or too single threaded. You guys can do the math, right? It's probably higher than you like. And the reason is because, yeah, like over the course of a quarter to even do that at scale is like near impossible for one person, let alone even if you have a frontline manager or leader to help you along the way. So that's the messy middle that we're talking about, where it's like the relationship sale is, could we make it feel like every account in your book of business is the only account you have? How do we make it feel that way? Well, if we're working together, hypothetically DocuSign, and there's 50 people, what would I have to do today in a deal review with you to make sure we're feeling good? Very likely, as part of my account planning, maybe I'm expected to go draw boxes in a PowerPoint or a Quip or a Miro board and try to piece together the sea of people. But what happens? 2 weeks later, your champion left. Somebody else came in. You have to keep that up to date as if you're going to draw another box in that PowerPoint. As if, like, maybe, right? But then what's the natural next question? Even if you did all that work, well, who's talked to that VP? Do we have exec sponsorship? Have we engaged them beyond just you as the AE? Should we be looping in somebody else on the team? Who do they influence? Who do they know? Like, this starts becoming very complicated very fast because now it's not just me and that person as the rep. It is, what's the team selling play here? Who on my side's engaged? Do we have the corresponding teaming, point to point, exec to exec, VP to VP engagement? Was that recent? Was it 2 months ago? Was I even in the room when those conversations happened? Do I know that they happened? Like you guys can get the picture of like where the complexity shows up. And in our eyes, that should just pull itself together automatically. And it can now. Because where's all that hidden? It's in every email, in every call recording, in every calendar event that we can automatically take Heath at Mixmax into, oh, that's Heath. He runs go to market over there. Like he's above the power line in sales or in revenue. Talking to Rachit over here, oh, he's an IC on the ground. He's maybe back in his engineering days, non-manager in engineering. And imagine that picture across the entire business automatically with agents pulls together not just that email, but who they are, their background, their title, who's talked to them into a living, breathing view of, yeah, you open your eyes and like, this is where we are on above, below the line. You look at me and you're like, Rachit, the entire VP row is missing. We're not closing this deal, dude. Like, what are we doing here? And then fixing that is kind of like the natural progression. But getting even that first baseline to have a strategic conversation is where we're spending hours expecting people to like literally manage up. Like, tell me what you're doing so that I can help you, right? Like to figure things out. But that step in of itself is like, how would you? You'd have to pull in every call, every email, every inbox that you don't even know about to get to the baseline of having a conversation. Like that is why you can only build an org chart for your T5, your top 10 accounts. There's a reason you're not doing it for every account in your book of business. Mm-hmm. What we believe, and we are in pride with customers that now can at scale for any account that they're in to centralize. So that's what we talk about when we say relationship selling. It's the messy middle, it's the complexity, it's all the moving pieces on the playing field. And it's us now finally with AI being able to build that story for any account in your book. Doesn't matter if it's your T5 or your last account.
Man, you hit a really good one. One was the noise, right? That's in the middle of the funnel. I think you're spot on with that. Is like, it is noise right now because nobody's actually like turning it into actionable data, which is what I love that y'all are doing right now. The second one you hit, which just brings back memories on the enterprise side, is you're talking about the PowerPoint. Because I was like, I remember those days. Yeah. And the problem is, and two things came to mind. I'm curious your thought. Number one is like, does this actually help make enterprise reps more productive? Because 9 times out of 10, that's what actually like, that's why they had to spend so much time was building the business case. 9 times out of 10, it was actually doing the relationship mapping. And it was static, which is another big point. Is like, yes, that AE invested a lot of time, but the moment that was signed and handed off to the next team, to that customer success, it just sat there in the PowerPoint, right? And so then there's technology that's allowed you to like drag and drop. I'm not going to name names, like we know that they're out there, but even that is like still very manual. And I think that's one of the biggest areas that most, how do I say this in another way? Most founders that come from a very product or engineering background, AKA non-sales, that's the part that we tend to miss is what are the small manual steps that compound to make this a really, really frictional point. And so I think like you easily hit on that. So I want to take in the other direction though, is like, how does this really help sales teams, customer success, and like even executives collaborate more effectively on their accounts?
Yeah. Can I paint a picture of like, if we were to just do this for an account, what you'd see?
Let's do it, man. It's like Picasso.
All right. I'll hopefully use my words to paint some story in your mind of what you can expect, right? Let's do this. Throw out like a name of like, a cool company we should be prospecting today. Pretend this is literally a deal review right now. Like what account are we looking at right now?
Man, just because of recency bias, Datadog. I just got out of a call. So let's go Datadog.
Okay, Datadog. Great. That's a good one. Datadog. If you saw Datadog in Centralize, here's what you'd expect to see pulled together. One, let's assume this is a new biz deal, right? We haven't broken it yet. We're maybe like somewhere along the journey. What would Centralize already have in it? It would have every email that anybody at Mixmax has sent to Datadog, any calendar event, any gong call you've had with them, anything of the sort. And all of those people are already sitting in the right place on the map. So you look at the activity and you already know the entire sales column is empty. We're only talking to ops, and at that, below the line in ops. Not great for us right now if we're trying to break into sales, hypothetically. That's one. Two is what you'd see, even assuming there was no activity, you would see, to your point on GTN, every exec, investor, advisor, team members, connections, even customer champions if they opt in, and all the people that they know at Datadog that you should have been talking to on day one. Dude, it blows my mind. Like, I was onboarding a customer, won't name them. They're a decacorn in the fintech space that we just onboarded recently, and they were working a deal for a quarter. And we onboarded them to Centralize in minute 2 of that onboarding call. They put in one of their top accounts. And on the left of the screen, they saw very strong connection, hovered over Y, and it said overlapped at that company, at the fintech for 3 years. And I was like, guys, wait a second. We click in, and the person that they were trying to get to in seat at the place they were selling to was a former employee of them that was there for 3 years, that they overlapped and knew for 3 years, and did not even activate as like the best mole or champion you could possibly hope for at their prospect. I'm like, guys, we're a quarter into the sales cycle. I don't know what CAC to tell you about here, but like, we cannot afford, like, but it's so hard to get that answer, right? Because what if you're not connected to that person? What if it's your CRO? What if it's somebody else? It's your advisor, it's your customer. There's no way to pull that picture together. But in Centralize, you wake up to everyone that your team knows about that you should as well before you do anything else. It's everyone your team's ever talked to, even if you weren't in the room. Territory changing, planning, you just jumped in, right? Got new hired. That's the lay of the land. Now, the fun piece is the last part, which is now that you see all this, whether it's an AE or a CSM or a frontline manager looking at this, everyone's on the same page. It's the shared deal canvas. The handoff goes to zero because we're all looking at the exact same reality of where we are in the world. Who's still there? Who's left? And if I clicked on anyone's name at Datadog, I would be able to see an AI recap of every word that person's spoken over a gong call, over an email, over the last 6 months that we've engaged them. So again, whether this is late stage, like stage 4 into the deal, or it's a CSM handoff, there's never a question of like, why do the people we're engaging with care? It's already there real time in terms of the collaboration of like, we're all on the same page. Here's who matters to us. From every word they've spoken, this is why they even get excited in the first place about us. CSM, stop complaining your AEs are lazy. AEs, stop being lazy. But even if you are, it's fine because the handoff's already done for you. It's okay. Managers, stop bothering your reps to not do anything but selling because they should be selling. Just, you have the answer already. It's done for you. And now finally, you come into a call together and the conversation is not 30 minutes of scorekeeping of, hey, what are we doing? Who are we talking to? Do they matter? Do they not? Do we engage them? It's, you already had that answer. In fact, this is a little spicy update. You could Slack our bot and Centralize bot in Slack, and it'll actually read every word of every email of every call for every single account and op in person. And you could just ask before you show up on that call. Leaders, you have no excuse now to ask dumb questions to your team because you already have the answer. That is a 30-minute strategy session. That is like, we know exactly the problem. We know exactly what to do next. And the last piece I'll mention, and this is a lot, but I'll paint the picture here just to close the loop here. Let's recap where we are. We're looking at Datadog. We've seen who we've talked to. We've seen what they care about. We've seen who we missed across our warm network. What we'll also give you is a look into every employee of Datadog that meets the persona definition that you sell to, that you missed. So we'll give you the 40 names your team didn't even know existed that you should have been talking to. So that next time you jump on a call, you're like, shouldn't we be thinking about like John and Tracy? And your champion's like, no, let's talk to, Ed. But you have that answer up front on who you should have been engaging to expand that sphere of influence. You pull all this together and like, this is how you actually progress deals in the messy middle. So you don't get to end of quarter too low or too single threaded because there's no excuse anymore. The entire team, AE, SDR, frontline manager, CSM, AM, CRO, is looking at the same shared story of literally that answer. The people's, where we are, where we're not, how do we fix it? That is what Centralize pulls together.
Man, you know what I love most as you're talking about the problem that Centralize is solving for? And it goes back to, I think, the change of the landscape, right? Is like when we talk about CRMs or we talk about sales in general, sales has always been very static. We've treated sales as though it's this linear process. Mm-hmm. And I think the market now, our buyers are more savvy, they're more educated, and they want to do more of their own research before they even talk to us. It changes it to where we have to be more dynamic in the way that we do sales.
Yeah.
And what I'm hearing from you is that we're creating the journey to where sales can now meet buyers where the buyers are at, right? I think that's the ultimate goal. But to your point, it's impossible to do today because it's just so challenging. It's so frictional. Every time you add a handoff from one person to the other, right? Like that's where all the risk is. And so I think you did a really good job of painting the picture for the rep. What's going through my mind, right, is like that CRO side. How does
Mm,
this change the way that we potentially look at pipeline? How does this change
yeah.
the way we potentially look at deal health, right? Because most of us, when we look at basic CRM, it's like average sales cycle, how long has it been stuck in a stage? Like it's
Sure.
still very foundational data, but it sounds like this is opening that door to where we can even rethink the way we look at deal health.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point. I mean, something that I'll flag, one of our top customers, um, they don't actually look at anything for forecasting other than one very simple thing. The personas that they sell to, are we power threaded? Are we above the line in all of those personas? If we are not, this deal's not happening. Doesn't matter what you tell me. You tell me this is a beautiful deal, perfectly healthy. If you're not talking to four VPs across all those places where we know we have to engage, odds are we don't have the right buyer committee in place to make this thing happen. How do you answer that question though? I mean, they spent 4 years building a Tableau dashboard with hundreds of thousands of salaries of scientists, basically pulling this together. A Tableau view of the VP of sales, director, managers down to ICs by every op in Salesforce, trying their best off of just frankly shitty Salesforce data of titles to try to infer if they're in the persona and above the line, to then put a yes or no in that power threading box. They pipe that into Clary, and that's all they look at. Like that is what deal health means to them. End of the day, I mean, that's literally what Centralize does in seconds by default, which is why they got so excited. And the reality is like, yeah, you could tell me all these random 72, 64, like random numbers about what a deal health implies, but let's just dumb it down to like the simplest thing. Are you talking to the right people and are you in the rooms where you're supposed to be? If you're not and they're not on your side, like why do you have any hope that this thing's going to close? You know historically how you win. It's being in the right rooms in these places above the line of the decision makers. And so if we can just make it so simple as like the really simple input you should be looking at it is, okay, Mr. CRO, Mrs. CRO, if I have to tell you right now that we're working Datadog, where can you just open in your eyes and flex into to understand the exact state of the world? And if that state of the world tells you very clearly, you don't have to think, you look at it and it tells you the entire VP row is missing and the personas you sell to. Doesn't matter what I tell you about my deal health. I'm talking to 7 people. No, they're all below the line in the wrong places. Like we're not winning this deal. And if you can start aggregating those kind of analytics out, like now we have a true sense of what forecasting and like deal health's going to mean. At least as one of like probably the most critical inputs. I think that's why that customer only looks at that really at the end of the day. But it is that. It's the collaboration, sure. It's like, let's fix it in the front half. When I get pulled into a call as the CRO, I can very easily see where I'm missing exec sponsorship and how I can help. But it's also where I can, at any point in the cycle, have a very, very simple pulse check if we're talking to the right people. Are they saying the right things? Are they happy? And if we're not, then it's probably going to tell me as well that this deal is not trending very well for the quarter.
Yep.
That's one of the ways that they think about it from a health and zooming out like CRO level inspection.
I like that. It's very similar. I roll out, I call them deal confidence scores. And it's very simple to your point. I measure it, it's out of 100 points, and it's based off of the company's metrics. So I basically give you a score based off what our average sales cycle is today, compared to your actual sales cycle now. Are we going up against one of our competitors? Naturally, that adds risk to a deal.
Totally.
Is it multi-threaded? And the way we solved for that easily was like, once you attach a contact in your CRM, we give them the opportunity as the champion, an influencer, or a decision maker.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're also looking at average deal size, right? Just because we know our win rates based off deal size. And it's funny because that you mentioned that, because when I first joined most of my organizations, there's usually like a pretty big delta to where it's like, here's our forecast. And if I look at the forecast by the deal confidence score, it's like 25% of the forecast.
I know.
And then naturally it works that way up. But one of the common zero scores that I see come in when I first do this at every organization is there's no champion attached.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe the rep knows their entire buying committee, but that's going to get lost the moment it gets closed off, because let's be honest, reps are not good at maintaining CRM hygiene, right? And so I think this is also where it closes that gap. And so you hit another big one. I'm just curious. I want to pick your brain a little bit. If this changes potentially the way we look at deal health,
Mhm.
Does this potentially change the way we look at how we measure multi-threading success? And like basically, like if you were to compare KPIs of like what does a KPI of a company that is very single threaded
Mm.
versus the success factors that a very mature multi-threaded organization looks at.
Yeah.
And is that a different way that we can kind of start to rewire when we're using tools like Centralize?
Yeah. That's a great question in terms of like, yeah, multi-threading is this almost outcome people aspire for, like
Mm-hmm.
a state of being. It's like, yes, we're in all the right
An output,
places.
right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's an output and then an input into your deal health, right? As an
Mm-hmm.
example. But I think the way we've seen our best customers lean into it, it's like really at the end of the day, it comes down to a very crisp definition of the personas you need to be in and what does that persona mean to you, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if I were Datadog, I'm probably selling to engineering teams, like data teams, observability, like wherever I think that this is going to be critical to that customer. Like if I were the VP of sales at Datadog, I'd probably be thinking about that. Like, are all my deals engaged in all these places? IT, Eng, observability, C-suite eventually, finance, whatever. If that's not true, then yeah, we're in trouble. But if I can, and most companies have this, can I at least figure out by definition where my team should be, what good looks like, and then Centralize kind of just does the rest because we can automatically place all the people you've engaged into those personas, whether they are above, on, or below, if they're engaged recently or not. And now all you've had to do is just tell us how people buy, right? Like who generally has to buy here to get excited? Who has to feel the pain to get excited? You can take that very simple definition and everything else is just metadata around the person, the conversation, the engagement experience, what they've said, that can then give you a way more robust answer than what used to just be like arbitrary formulas about like numbers in the deal cycle. If you have like a flag true or false, if the person believes that they have a champion, maybe okay, yes, there's a champion. Versus like from every sentence this person said, are they actually a champion? Really? At the end of the day, like, are we missing someone that is looking at every closed one in the past, what a true champion looks like? That's where the fun part comes in. Can you learn from how you win and how you lose and apply that to an existing deal if that actually matches if you're winning or losing? The power of this is not just like, yeah, at a glance, throw in some arbitrary inputs and say, yes, okay, formula is this. Here we go. It's no, when you win, here's the 5 people you normally talk to. From every word you speak about in this stage versus this stage, here's when good is actually good and here's when it's not. You're in a deal right now in stage 2. It's been 2 weeks. Here's who you should have been talking to by now. Here's who you missed by the way. That's usually this persona. That's John and Jane. And here's what you should say to them because that's what you normally say to win. That is what true intelligence AI agentic experience in 2025 can be versus I think a lot of what we've had to do until now has been like just high level. Here's an input. Here's a formula. Like get kind of a high level number. I think that's what's going to start shifting and what's possible because the level of rigor of what you can read from to get like a truly robust like evolving real time answer. You couldn't do it before. It just frankly
Yeah.
wasn't possible before.
Well, and the thing I like about it is most relationship mapping today, it's a checkbox. Let's just call it what
Yeah,
it is, right? It's a
yeah,
checkbox of like, is this multi-threaded? Do I have my buying committee? Yes or no?
yeah, yeah.
Where I think this opens the door. So a framework that I built is called plan selling, right?
Hmm,
And I think like no matter what size deal, any deal, as long as you understand the problems and you can line those up to the priorities, you can
hmm,
address the decision dynamics and clearly understand next steps, every deal
hmm,
will proceed, right?
hmm,
And I even think that to your point now is there are micro plans that feed into the macro plan. What I mean by that and
hmm.
where I think the gap is today that Centralize will help us solve is we check the box off, but we actually don't do enough due diligence to understand, well, what are the champions' problems and their priorities and how do they make decisions
Yeah,
compared to the other influencers that don't have decision making capabilities, but we know they're going to influence the deal, right? It's like, how can we actually understand that we're solving everybody's micro problems and priorities that solves the macro problem and the macro priority for the organization. I think that's
interesting.
the exciting part that this unlocks, right?
Yeah, that's very. I like the plan framing and like the steps along the way to ladder up to the big one. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I'll tell you a quick anecdote that I think
Yeah.
is really interesting to me. Like when I first talk to enterprise reps and I say, "Oh, like how important is relationship mapping to you?" most of the time they're actually like, dude, it's just homework. Like I have to just, I'm giving it at the beginning of the quarter, beginning of the month. I have to go write this up.
It's asked during my deal reviews.
It's asked in my deal reviews. And the only reason it's homework, I mean, it's not like all these sales leaders and enterprise reps are dumbos like out there. Like people understand the value of strategic planning. Like you cannot win a deal with even more than 5 or 10 people if you don't have a sense of the landscape, who matters, why, how do you navigate it, right? That's why it's asked of you. Why it feels like homework is everything we talked about in the beginning. It's you still having to go manually, literally copy paste LinkedIn URLs, draw some boxes, put them somewhere. Even if you do it in Sales Nav, hypothetically, like it's just names and faces. Are they still there? The natural next question you're going to ask me when I pull it up in my deal review is, cool, Ratchet, you got like 20 people here. Thanks for putting in all this work. Yeah, who have we talked to so far? Like, damn. Okay, now I got to go pull that together. That's a different entire data set of the story. And then to your point too, it's like, has that changed? Are they still there? Are they not? Whether it's for new biz or retention, like what's moving underneath us? There's no way to visualize that entire answer in a single view. The delivery mechanism is an org chart. It's a relationship map, yes. But the actual outcome is not relationship mapping in itself. It is a way to visualize and win your most complex deals. It's a place of deal strategy, if you will. And I like to say one of our favorite advisors actually kind of coined this. Was like, when I look at this, to me, it's like why reps are so excited now about using this versus when they like frown and get like flashbacks and they get asked the relationship map is because this is showing your work where you're doing your work. This is where you come to do your prospecting of like, who's my warm connection? Who did I miss? What did they say? And it's the same place you can pull up in a one-on-one and deal review because what work did you really have to do? Not that much. It's already there. It's like the story that you then have a place of strategy for with your leadership team. So I think that's kind of the shift we're seeing. It's like, it felt like busy work because frankly it was. You had to go do all this extra manual lift to get something that everyone knows is collateral. No one looks at 2 weeks later. So obviously, why would a rep ever want to proactively do that and like think about it that way? Maybe the best reps do. Some of the best ones do, but
Well,
most cases,
you make a good point because and your definition of homework is great, right? Because if anybody listening, if you've never been in enterprise sales, these reps are also dealing with legal because they got contracts that are being redline negotiated. They're dealing with the solution engineers because they have probably 2 or 3 proof of concepts that are about to get rolled out. Like they're not just like sitting around. And so it becomes homework because it's about trade-off cost. It's like, oh, well, I have this deal that's actually in stage 4. I need to get to the finish line. Legal just sent me 20 pages of red lines. Do I prioritize that or do I go prioritize actually making sure this next deal is mapped properly to where I can sell it the right way?
yeah.
Naturally, what do we do in sales? We go where we see like the low hanging fruit, where the money is, and so that's going to happen. So I think you make a really good point there. It's not they don't want to do it, but it's the other side of it too. Is what do reps want to do? They want to sell.
Yeah.
And so when we can remove that manual work of them trying to understand who do I need to talk to, when should I talk to them by, and how should I engage with them? Well, now that's why my question came up around our enterprise reps becoming more productive now. Because to me, I'm like, we're cutting out one of the most manual pieces of enterprise sales today.
Yeah. My goal, if we do our job right, is that every enterprise sales team should be able to work double the number of deals they have.
Oh my
Like,
God, don't
why
tell
should
that.
you be limited? I,
The
I,
quota's going to go up.
I mean, hey, like, if you spend all your day drawing boxes and like trying to do strategy planning and updating your team on what the game plan is, if you could take back, and we have a quote online too, some of the best reps that we have, like at High Spot as an example, one of the top reps, Arash over there, he's an amazing guy. Directly, he saves 5 to 6 hours a week in his eyes, not having to update the team, draw maps, find people that they missed, feel like they're in a good spot with a deal. It's just there automatically. Like, what could you do with like a true enterprise rep with 6 more hours a week of like actual selling time? What does that mean in terms of more deals you could be working, deals you could be breaking into? That's like the efficiency play. We're not even talking about the other fintech case of shaving 3 months off your sales cycle because you should have talked to the right person day one, right? There's a lot of different motions here, but at the end of the day, it's what you said. It's like, how do you make your best reps exponentially better? They already understand the value. But then how do you get even your B players looking like A players because they can see what good looks like? They can standardize how they do that. And frankly, perks of AI, it's just given to you. Here's who you missed that's warm. Here's who you missed that you didn't know existed. Here's where you are so far. Hey, if you need a little bit of a helping hand, great. Pull it up in a one-on-one, and your manager's not going to waste 30 minutes of your time asking questions. They're going to see what's wrong and tell you. And like, that's all in service of everyone's end goal. Let's sell more. Like, let's win more.
Man, I bet there's had to have been some pretty cool aha moments, like from you working with customers. And so I'm curious, is like, you talked about what good looks like, right? And like building the playbook essentially. Do you have any good memories that you're able to share where like you started working with the customer and they were just like something so obvious that they're like, oh, we got to change our playbook, and like changed it, implemented it, and saw the actual results come from it?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, the really cool thing about Centralize that we've worked very hard to make it this way is the time to value can truly be 5 minutes. Like, we have success stories in prod with unicorns that have booked meetings within 5 minutes of turning on Centralize. And the very simple reason is the example I shared earlier, right? How can you wake up and see a deal you've been working for a quarter and miss someone who used to work at your company that's at your prospect? The simplest pathway to getting into that account, right? Easy peasy. That's one. And that happened on that call, literally minute 5. It happened with one of our other customers too. I was working with one of their SDRs. They pulled up an account that they were prospecting. It was completely empty. And their president used to be at a company prior where the execs are now at their prospect. I'm like, guys, it says right here they overlap for 5+ years. You can't miss this. Like, this is how you leverage exec networks and your team to go break in. So the warm piece, like, truly, I've seen minute 5 that we've been helping people break to the C-suite in that alone. That's been very, very powerful. I think what's been really cool as well, though, is actually I've sat in on QBRs and one-on-ones with these teams as well. So I've just been a fly on the wall watching QBRs, just seeing the way that the conversations from like a leadership perspective are so much more strategic. Like, just opening their eyes and knowing, hey guys, we're actually really stale in this function we used to talk to 4 months ago. Like, shouldn't we be re-engaging with this person? Versus, oh, I noticed like we have to get up to this level and we haven't even talked to anyone in the C-suite. Why don't we take the 4 things that the reps below that we've talked to get excited about and just bring that up and make that part of the story that we say. And hey, I can do that because I'm the VP. We'll do an exec touch, right? There's their email, there's their phone number. Let's make it happen. Like, the difference in just what actually moves the deal forward when you have that answer pre-built for you with agents versus like however long it would take for either the rep, if that's the homework you're going to give them, or for the manager to go spend time asking dumb questions to get to the baseline. That all went away every day of the week in every single one-on-one, every single QBR, every single deal review. And now we're talking about like moving deals. We're not talking about what's happening in a deal, right? That is just such a cool, like, visceral feeling when I see like leaders' eyes light up, reps are being like, yeah, like, let's do this, like getting creative with the plays, seeing people they missed within truly minute 2 of turning on the platform. Yeah, it's really cool being in some of those rooms when I have the privilege of like joining a call and seeing that happen live.
That's awesome, man. I remember similar. I can just see the joy in your face, and like it just brought me back because when I founded my first company, and I had those moments where you're like, "Oh shit, this actually works."
Yeah.
Nothing is better than that feeling that I feel like that's the rush that we get as founders, that we actually keep doing the crazy stuff that we do, because when you have those, you're like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually helping people. And so one question I have is like, what recommendation would you give out there to somebody who's listening, either as a rep or even as a manager or director level, but centralize or not, what are 3 things like I should start doing today to actually realize where there is a gap and I should start looking at closing that gap?
Totally.
When it comes to relationship selling specifically.
Yeah. I mean, I think you all know, right? Like, relationships are everything. They make or break sales at the end of the day. Some more than others. Obviously, the more complex your deal, mid-market, enterprise, the more it's non-negotiable to really lean into that relationship complexity. But if there's anything I can share, I think it is that, just very simply, let's go to first principles. When you think of your deals, think of 3 very simple things. Where are we? Where are we not? And then how can we change that as soon as possible? And that should be an answer that you, if you're doing things right, again, centralized or not, I think with Centralize will make that answer show up for you automatically. But whether you have that or not, you should be able to answer that question every day of the week for every single deal that you have. And it is possible. And if you have that answer, then now we're talking like true deal execution strategy. You should never end a quarter stalling or slipping deals because you're too low or you're too single threaded. Shouldn't happen. At least that's in like your control. Obviously, there's timing and whatever other things, but if you think about your regrettable deals every quarter, every year that you have lost and it's slipped and installed, why is it other than, well, yeah, you didn't talk to the right people. That person ghosted you. You didn't have 5 other champions you should have been engaging to expand that sphere of influence. They went on PTO, right? Something came up. Like all these things, if you're not ensuring that you have covered your bases there by answering those 3 questions, I think you're going to continue having that problem. But that problem should not persist, at least in the regrettable cases, if you can think that way. And I think the last thing after that is like, I want to emphasize, if there's anything I'll share, it is that deals are not won or lost alone, guys, right? Like the complexity also comes because you do need a lot of people in the room to help out. You have an AE, you have an SDR working together, you have a CSM after the fact, you have a frontline manager that has to coach everybody, you have the AM a year later that needs the same answer, you have a CRO that's just trying to pull this revenue org together, everyone's on the same page. That's a very tall task. It's like it's not easy. But if you can pull it off and you can start thinking in that way, like why shouldn't everyone have the same picture to operate on? All of these inefficiencies and drop-off points should just go away. And that's going to directly impact your CAC, your retention rates, your NRR, your ARR. Like that's the magic. It's your internal relationships and how each other have those conversations. It's how those people manage their external relationships and understand that moving story. If you can do all the above, I mean, I'll stick to it, guys. I don't see a reason why you shouldn't be doubling this year. Like take all those deals you lose because of that, because of the inefficiencies, because of the miscommunication, because of the scale. And I think if you think about it that way, you will not have those problems anymore, at least in the regrettable cases.
Love that. All right, I want to go in the future with how fast everything is changing.
Yeah.
2 to 3 years from now, man, like where do you see AI taking relationship selling?
Oh, totally, dude. This is what I get excited about every single day. I'm going to paint you another very quick picture of what's possible. And it's this. Why log into a dashboard? Right? Like you need the visual. I think you need a place to look. People are inherently, visual creatures. Like you have to see what's happening on the ground. It's not just yapping about words and names. Like there's organization for a reason. But why can you not, as a rep, as a leader, wake up to the following Slack message? Hey, Heath, saw you're working 3 deals today. Normally, you sell to sales, success, and marketing. I notice you're kind of below the line in sales right now. By this point, you should be a bit higher. And I see you're talking to, John and Jane in success and marketing. Typically, who you speak to should be their equivalent peer, their VP. By the way, that peer is actually Jeffrey. From everything you've heard so far, I think this is what you should say. You want to send that message? Yes or no? Like that, I'm actually talking about our like next month product roadmap. That was possible in the next month. And the reason is because once you've centralized that data, the power of AI agents doing all that thinking for you is kind of saying what we would normally do in a deal review of looking at a visual, seeing the empty VP row and realizing, oh, like we should do something different. And what's the natural next question? What should we do different? Who is the person in there? Oh, we have to go find in sales nav and go find the individual. We have to go see who we've talked to in their org and maybe build a reason to talk to them, right? A point of view on that. All those are things that AI is fully capable of parsing out from existing context, from people relationships, from the story. You should just be able to wake up to the answer, which is like, hey, every day of the week, don't even like, frankly, need a 101 or a deal review to answer it. You should just be on autopilot and this friendly little, bot over here, Centra, we actually personified to like ask Centra. It's like Centra could be an example of that. Centra's just out here knocking on your door in the morning saying, hey, I have 3 recommendations for your top deals and how you can win. You could go warm. You could be finding these people you haven't talked to yet. You could be saying these things. Tell me if you care about any of the above or a different deal you're working. You say, no, I don't care about those. I'm working Brex today. Like, great. Here's what's going on with Brex right now. You're talking to these 5 people. This is the state of the world. But, you normally 2 weeks into stage 2, from what I've seen you win in the past, should be at these 4 people. You want something that might resonate that worked for the last 5 deals you talked to? Like that is truly what agents for relationship sales will become. And I frankly think we're literally months away from that answer.
I think that right there was the perfect definition of like what relationship selling is, right? And why I say that is because, so I'll give you an example. Is I built like AI agents for my sales team, and it connects to their calendar because since ChatGPT and Claude released that, I basically built a master prompt that it analyzes their schedule for the day,
Hmm.
takes it by the domain and does like an account analysis, and then will also fill in their time blocks with suggested prospecting times, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Which is awesome. Like it's better than where we were a year ago. But when you were describing, I was like, man, like that's it right there. Like it's not about the account. It's about the people that drive that account or that enterprise forward. Being able to like understand them. I mean, that's our ultimate goal, right? It's where I always say now is like it's about not personalization, but personalization. Nobody
Interesting.
cares that y'all went to the same school, right? I hate when I get those type of messages. I'm like, cool,
Sure,
good job.
sure.
But like personalization is like when you actually understand me, you actually understand what world I live in, what problems I deal with. Man, now we're actually like, talking about business and solving problems. And it's the same thing with deal reviews. Most deal reviews, we spend the first half hour just getting brought up to speed to
Yeah.
understand what's going on. Where what you're talking about what this solves is like now deal reviews are actually about removing blockers. That's
Yeah.
all it's about. That's all we want it to be about at the end of the day, which is awesome.
Yeah. It is. Here's your landmines. Here's what you should do
Mhm.
about it. Not let's go like find them, right, or discuss about them. Um,
Man,
that's yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah. No, no, no. I'll just end with that. I think you said it very well. I'll recap in a sentence. Deals are not won at the account level; they're won at the individual level. Like you don't win mix max, you get Heath excited, right? Because Heath has certain problems, and those are different from other folks in the org. And if we get Heath feeling really good, then we understand him well enough to think about why this is relevant to his day to day. And that might be different from your AE's day to days, might be different from your VPs of marketing's day to day. But that story is why relationships are so complicated. But I mean, that is sales, right? Like that's what you have to understand, and that's why agents can piece together from all these different silos into a view that actually informs you on what to do next and move deals in the messy middle. So, yeah, I agree with you on all the above, man. I think it's people at the end of the day, but people are complicated, and there's an easier way.
Man, I can't add anything to that. That was well put. Look, as we wrap up, this was an amazing conversation. Just really digging deeper into what I thought was going to be a conversation around just multi-threading, but you took that to the next level to really help me and the audience understand what relationship selling is. And some of the things for me that I've taken away, right, is like there's tools that are out there and there are strategies that exist today on how we can actually transform the way that revenue teams collaborate on deals, right? Like, and what I would say is like for our listeners listening is like implementing these strategies, platforms such as Centralize, platforms such as Mixmax that are already incorporating these AI driven, I'm not even calling them features because they're actually their own products in a way, right? Like this is where we can enable that intelligent multi-threading, which unlocks that relationship selling. Man, that's where it gets fun, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And so like for me, like the key takeaways, if I think about like not even should I go and buy a solution or not, but it's like from what I heard you say is like start small, right? I think at the end of the day, this is where data it matters. Like measure everything, and then make sure that we're working with a solution and a provider that actually makes that easy. I think that's the hardest part to unlock, and it sounds like y'all have done a really good job of basically detangling the data to where you can actually make actionable decisions off of that, which is awesome.
that's a great call. Yeah, if you don't have the data, you don't have anything. You guys know as well as me, uh, uh, garbage in, garbage out, right?
Yep.
Like, and a lot of people know Salesforce data is garbage, and that's the problem. That's why you can't rely on scores necessarily if someone forgot to put in a champion or a conversation or anything else. And it's like, well, you jump on that call, you say things aren't going well, and they're like, "No, I've been talking to them this whole time." And like, okay, well, I couldn't have that answer because it wasn't automatically creating itself. I had to rely on yet again manual input to go off of a good baseline.
Yep.
But to your point, yeah, if you have the data, you have everything. If you don't, you frankly can't actually get to this fun stuff.
Yep.
There are ways that you can centralize that data so you can actually start getting some of the juicy insights you need, but to your point, in terms of the philosophy, it's exactly that. Once you have a way to detangle that data really, really well, then you can answer the where we are, where we're not, what to do about it. If you're stuck in detangling land and your competitors are understanding how to do this way better than you, yeah, they're going to get to power faster. They're going to win faster. You're stuck like wasting time in things that are already solved problems nowadays. And that's where, like you said, it gets fun. That
Mm-hmm.
should be legacy. If you're having that problem, obviously, like we should talk, there's ways to fix it. The fun world now ahead that everyone's moving towards that you'll be left behind, I think, if you don't answer is data solved. The answers are there. It's how well are you adopting that into your workflows so that you wake up every day starting with, I know where I am, I know who I missed, I know how to fix it. I just have to go sell. Like I spend my time selling, not finding those answers.
Yep, exactly. And I feel like that's speaking on behalf of an account executive, right? Because I've been in the world of sales for 15 plus years now. I feel like that's all we dream of, right? That's really what we want to do. Is we don't want to waste time on a lot of the ad. I mean, that's why 5, 6 years ago, groundbreaking tools were about productivity because we were wasting time on things that weren't
Yeah.
productive. And I think to your point now is like we have a prioritization problem and a relationship problem. And so it's how do we make sure we're building the right relationships, and then how do we make sure that we're prioritizing those relationships the right way to really, that's in my view, that's how you drive growth. And so, man, like I really, really appreciate all of the conversation today, these groundbreaking insights.
Yeah.
For our listeners, like, question I leave you with is like, what's one multi-threading challenge or relationship selling challenge you're facing that you could solve yourself, right? Because we don't have to use AI. Let's not use that as an excuse. But what also could you use AI to help solve, right? Where can people find out about Centralize and potentially connect with you? Obviously on LinkedIn. But what's your website for Centralize if anybody wants to check it out?
Yeah, yeah, very simple. It's just use centralize.com.
Easy
uh,
enough.
easy enough. And I'm always yapping on LinkedIn, always having a good time sharing perspectives. You can DM me anytime. But yeah, use centralize.com.
I love it. Well, this show was brought to you by Mixmax. So if you have any questions, want to learn more about Mixmax as well, reach out to us on LinkedIn or visit mixmax.com. And you can explore different ways how we're leveraging AI to transform the entire sales execution side. And then check out Centralize and how they are revamping, revitalizing the entire revenue collaboration motion, which is really, really fun. So until next time, keep mixing the perfect blend of go to market, sales, and AI. Thanks, everybody.